right, thank you everybody for sticking around, especially since I know I'm competing up against the United States versus Germany in soccer, and so thank you all for being security fans, even more than you might be soccer or football fans. Yes. So I'm Wendy Seltzer. I am a lawyer and technologist, and I am the leader of the technology and society domain at the World Wide Web Consortium, where I focus on privacy and security in web standards and other things under the technology and society banner, including some web payments and some social networks. So today I'm going to be talking about trust, and we've got a basic definition of trust back from 1918, when we were thinking more about people and institutions than about computers. Trust, the assured resting of the mind on the integrity, veracity, justice, friendship, or other sound principle of another person. Confidence, reliance. And in the context of person to person, person to organization, trust, we usually connect trust up to a particular context and relationship. So I might trust my doctor to diagnose my illness and to prescribe the right medicines, but not to fly an airplane, and I trust the pilot of the plane that flew me here to pilot that plane and land me safely. Then I might trust others more broadly. So my family I might trust to look out for my interests, but not necessarily to have the expertise to pilot a plane or diagnose my illnesses. And we sometimes back those trust decisions by law. So the law of malpractice gives me assurance that the doctor, even if I don't know him or her very well, has plenty of other reasons not to prescribe dangerous drugs. Sometimes by social norms, by relationships and sense of familial duty, or the consistency, the ongoing nature of repeat interactions might give reason for trust. You don't want to betray somebody whom you'll have to do business with again in the future. Sometimes economics motivates those relational considerations, and sometimes by structural constraints. So if I know that somebody can only take a few specific actions, then I can trust that they won't go beyond those. And so constraints can be empowering. The famous example from Greek mythology, Odysseus, when he was sailing past the Sirens, whose song was rumored to be so powerful that every previous ship had been shipwrecked on the island and never escaped, ordered his crew to bind him to the mast of the ship and to stop their ears with wax so they wouldn't hear the song, and further not to unbind him until the ship was safely passed. So no matter how loudly he screamed for them to release him, he knew that he was constrained to, and the ship could safely get past that obstacle. So we've got a few different mechanisms then for assuring trust. How well do those work in the computer security environment? Ronald Reagan, US president back during the Cold War, liked to repeat a Russian maxim back to his counterparts, trust but verify. He hadn't had lots of reason for believing that his Russian counterparts would keep their promises, so he wanted assurances in other means. He wanted to learn more about what they were planning by investigation, by spying even. And so in computer security context, we do audits, we examine the source code, we invite penetration testing, we look at the machinery that we're running on, all to verify the security of our web environment. But is even that enough? Ken Thompson, in his famous Reflections on Trusting Trust, built a backdoored compiler, took standard fully neutral source code, compiled it up through that backdoored compiler, stuck it onto a system, and inserted a backdoor into that ordinary code. And to anyone looking at the code itself, there was nothing wrong, but the system itself was vulnerable. So as the environment gets more complex, verification, even by looking at the code and even by looking at many of the underlying components, isn't enough to enable trust. Verifiability is hard, especially as the web gets more interactive, as we've got Turing-complete programming languages all over the place. We can't build parsers to understand everything that we encounter on the web, and our code increasingly has side effects that we don't expect. So the web has changed since it began in 1989, when you could visit a static web page and get back some pieces of text and pretty much expect that the only thing you needed to trust about that web page was the content. If you didn't trust the content, you could verify it elsewhere, or you could just look elsewhere. You know, if you went to a web page and it wasn't, you went to the CERN web page and you didn't find what you were looking for, you could just move on, or call somebody up to ask, is that what I was expecting to find in the scientific paper repository? But as web pages get interactive and multimedia and programmable, they now have side effects on your browser and your machine as you execute them and view them. And so you can't be confident that just going to a web page is a safe activity. You are loading programs, and unless you've sealed your browser environment with plugins and blockers and no script and request policy and other tools to attempt to filter what you're getting in, you don't know what's executing on your machine, and you can't be certain that it's not infiltrating data back out, whether that's identifying information or more or confidential information from your environment. So how do we deal with these problems? Well, sometimes we deal with security as delegation. We just say, I'm going to delegate that concern to the engineers who designed the web browser. Figure that they took care of those problems for me. And most ordinary users of the web do that. They figure, enough other people are using this, this must be safe, and that'll work. And it's not because users are stupid. It's not because users are don't know web security. It's a simple matter of cognitive economy. The users figure they know they don't know about security, but there must be other people who have, and they've gotten these web browsers from reputable places, and they're going to visit reputable websites, so they think. So they'll just trust that they're operating in a reasonably safe manner. So let's get back to trust. How can we help users to meet that expectation? How can we produce a web application environment where we can reasonably ask users to trust and meet that expectation. And we want to do that while maintaining and preserving the open web platform. The open in that platform is that it is an environment that's open to permissionless innovation, as we like to say, that anyone can build on it and do the unexpected. So we don't want to constrain it so tightly that only applications we already know can be built. At the same time, we want to provide some basis for assurance to users that when they venture out into the platform, they won't be bitten. So is it trusted? Is it trustable? Is it trustworthy? Each of those a slightly different spin on what we should expect on the web. And if we want to put users first, if we want to first meet their expectations and then meet the expectations of the developers who want a powerful programming environment, and then of the companies who want to sell things on that environment, how can we make this a meaningful environment for trust? And how can we make it trustworthy so that the trust users want to have is warranted? So I'm going to suggest that we look to the end-to-end argument, and end-to-end says moved functions upward in a layered system closer to the application using the function. In other words, we shouldn't need to trust the platform if we can get trustworthy endpoints. If users can anchor trust in particular applications or endpoints on the web, they shouldn't need to trust the entire web platform. But we haven't necessarily done such a great job of that lately. Lots of the places that we have reposed our trust have been misplaced, and I argue that's in part that we've scoped the trust too broadly. We've trusted people and organizations and systems for much more than we need to, and that means that when they break, they've broken more than they need to. So a few examples here. Malvertising or adware injections. This was just one of the latest. The Reuters site appeared to be hacked when the Syrian Electronic Army took over its advertising network, the third-party advertising network that Reuters had trusted to put advertisements into its web pages, and was able to redirect browsers to its pages of protest whenever users tried to go to news articles about Syria. So Reuters could have taken more precautions here. It could have vetted its third-party advertising networks more carefully, done audits of their security to assure that they weren't allowing attackers in through their networks. I could have taken precautions in the coding of its pages to distrust the frames in which advertisements appear, using things like content security policy to block the ads from escaping and gaining control of the browser. But that gets into some tension with what advertisers want, because the advertisers will pay more for advertising that's rich and interactive and that gets lots of data about the user. And even if, so Reuters and the advertising network are negotiating that question, and meanwhile the user has very little choice about any of this in the matter. This is a diagram from generated by Disconnect, showing all of the third-party requests made by visits to a page on Reuters.com. So just by going there, the user is subject to information collection and potential information injection from dozens of sites. So the user who reposed trust in Reuters is getting all of this exposure, and doesn't have much choice for the average user beyond trust the whole site or trust nothing at all. The user, again, could try installing extensions. The disconnect specifically disallows callouts to third-party sites. Other applications like the Tor browser bundle disable lots of those calls as well to try to protect the user's browsing anonymity. But the average user is not doing that. Maybe using ad block, which has the side effect of not performing all of those information calls while it blocks the advertising from showing up in the browser. So trusting the origin of the site you're visiting is dangerous. What about trusting communication channels? Well, how about DigiNotar, Internet Trust Services, or your web browser trusts probably 100, 200, 300 certificate authorities, most of them companies that you have no individual business relationship with and not necessarily any reason to trust. Until 2011, DigiNotar was one of those. And a certificate authority can issue certificates for any domain on the web. And they're supposed to do some verification under the rules of the CA browser forum. They're supposed to verify that the person requesting a certificate for a domain name, for a domain, controls that domain. If they want an extended validity certificate, they're supposed to verify a little bit more about that identity and connection of the requester to it. But all of these are sort of legal and contractual assertions that the certificate authority is making to the browsers when it's asking, won't you put my root key into your certificate store. None of these are promises made to the end user. And so when DigiNotar got hacked and was caused to issue bogus certificates for Google.com and Gmail.com, and then man-in-the-middle attacks on the Iranian internet gateways were put in interception proxies to steal, intercept users' email connections there. It looked to them as though they were getting the ordinary secure Gmail website. There was no way to tell that their trust in their certificate system was misplaced. And this is a problem of scope because why is it that anyone, anywhere can issue a certificate for any domain name? That there is not a good way, a good distributed way for domains to assert only the certificate authority I've authorized can do that. Now, since then, more of these mechanisms have been developed and are being discussed. So Google in its Chrome browser has certificate pinning and will say only these certificates that we've blessed should be used to validate the Google websites. If you see any others, don't show a page because it's not Google. And that scales up to a few sites. So those who contact Google at high risk can get their pins added to the browser, but it doesn't scale globally. Other ideas like certificate transparency propose a public log of all of the certificates issued that a company could then watch and repudiate. So if Google saw a fake certificate appear in one of those logs, it could announce that's not ours, and send out blocking messages to warn people against using that certificate, and then the browser would make sure it was only looking at certificates that were publicly logged. But for the moment, most users in most browsers are still stuck with this somewhat overbroad scope of trust in certificate authorities. What about trust in governments? Surely they can help us to maintain our secure web environments. Well, at least English-speaking countries, the governments haven't been doing much to inspire trust lately. NSA, GCHQ, and their partners among the Five Eyes, as Edward Snowden has shown, have done plenty to cause us reasonable distrust, from sweeping communications surveillance, subverting encryption standards, backdooring commercial software, stockpiling vulnerabilities in software. Instead of assuring communication security, as we would hope that our governments do, they are making it less secure. And this is undermining the trust both in our governments and in companies who now find that their business partners are concerned about what this means for the security of their products, and what it means as well for their profits. So can we improve the security of web applications? XKCD had a fun little cartoon the other day. Installing things has gotten so fast and painless. Why not skip it entirely and make a phone that has every app installed already and just downloads and runs them on the fly? Felt pretty clever until I realized I'd invented web apps. Almost, but web apps still lack a couple of the key features of offline applications. They rely on this web security model and same origin policies, and in particular raise challenges around secure JavaScript delivery. Whom does the user have to trust to know that what the user is downloading from the web app is in fact secure and safe to execute on their browser? And can the user build a true can the user trust that a web application is what he or she expected and meant to visit? And if the user trusts that today, does that trust necessarily carry forward? You might have trusted Ladar Levinson, the man behind LavaBit, and you might have trusted because you saw the code, or because you trusted him as an individual and believed that the webmail communication system that he was developing was safe and sound and secure. But if he can be sent a national security letter by the US government and told, change that code and force your end users to download new code that is less secure, that is backdoored, or that uses an encryption key that we have access to, so that we, US government, can gain access to those communications, then the user's trust would be misplaced, even if it was originally entirely warranted. Rather than take that route, rather than backdoor users, LavaBit shut down, very publicly announced that it was ceasing operations immediately and destroying communications rather than turn them over or expose the users to surveillance. Apparently, the government wanted information about a single user, but thanks to encryption, couldn't find that user, and so asked, sort of decrypt everything until you can find the user and the communications that we want. Well, as long as the users of a service are constantly asking for web updates or willing to receive web updates, they don't have a way of protecting themselves against this kind of Trojan update. So can we build the tools that will allow users to secure their systems better against this kind of attack? Because even if you trust those with whom you're doing business, if somebody else can interfere with them, your trust will be misplaced. So I think we need to look at the web security model and the web and look for ways of scoping trust more precisely. We want to look for opportunities to say, you don't need to trust everyone for everything, but rather need to trust for a purpose and for a specific reason. So can we build these more secure roots of trust through some combination of code, perhaps of law and liability, perhaps through distributed systems that allow you to look to others for verification of the information that you're asked to trust rather than to one central point that can be suborned? Do we need new models and primitives to build the web and web applications upon? And so here I've got some thoughts, and we'll share some of those. And I'm also inviting you to sort of help us think through these problems and help us build a more secure and trustworthy web environment. So transparency seems to be one of those pieces. The public logs and notaries, the double checking of information in public places makes it harder to subvert, harder to go back and change. Open source allows for many eyes, as they say. Doesn't guarantee security. If no eyes are actually looking at the code, it can still be insecure and still be vulnerable, as we've seen in a few recent OpenSSL incidents. But openness helps. Free software helps. I know Richard Stallman was in here a few minutes earlier. Can we do more with signing and verification? Signing of source, signing of channels. Can we use distributed mechanisms of trust? Can we build on open? Is the web of trust something like what PGP uses, something that scales? And if not, how can we build something that scales better than the rooted and centralized mechanisms of certificate authorities? Can we do more with pinning? And we've seen the certificate pinning from the server side. Can we give users something similar of a code pinning in their browser so that if the user decides at this point in time, I trust the web application that's been delivered, maybe because they've audited it, maybe because they've delegated to a friend or organization that they trust to audit it, maybe because they've built it themselves. They trust it now but don't want it to change out from under them. Can we make that easier to use than a separately installable extension so that we can build user-secure web apps? Can we get better at key storage and key exchange to spare users the difficulties of key management, or to explain key management in ways that, that make sense to people who are trying to think about how to communicate securely? Can we give mechanisms for secure key storage, whether it's hardware, two-factor authentication that work for users to prevent them from being attacked? And can we think more about capabilities and commitments in software? Can we think about limiting capabilities in places to say, you don't need to trust me very far with your data, with your computing environment, because this particular application can't do very much? Can we give users some limited modular applications that will let them build up trusted components? And so I'm thinking about these pieces, and would love to get your thoughts and help in what else does the web need to become a real powerful home for secure user-to-user communications, for the trust that we need to build commercial and social applications, and keep this space vibrant and safe. So thanks very much, and I would welcome questions.
Thanks for them. You were talking about code pinning and user-side code pinning or something. Like, honestly, how practical do you think this is? Because to me, it sounds completely unpractical. Because the smallest amount of change in the code would require re-auditing on the user side or their friend, as you suggested. Or we have to delegate it to some authority, then that authority will delegate to another authority. So as a replacement for the CM model, you're creating another CM model for the codes, which if you could expand on that, please.
So, sure. How would code pinning or work? How can we improve secure update of code so that users can verify the security of what they've downloaded? I don't know all the details, and you're right that there are plenty of complexities, but the answer isn't, or I don't think, all the way to the other end of each time you run an application, you're downloading bits and pieces from who knows where and putting them together and trusting that that combination will be safe. So one component of the answer is to rely on libraries more and be able to audit those libraries, and then the pieces on top can be smaller and more easily reviewed when they change.
I would like to follow up on that. The case I'm thinking about is the case of CryptoCat. When the
case of what?
CryptoCat.
CryptoCat, yes.
Yeah, where there were questions about if the adversary was the dude himself who created or somebody who created the server. And then it was like, yeah, okay, make it an add-on. But then, how can I trust the add-on? Then the add-on has auto-update, and then when I update, I have to look at it again. So I really don't think the concept of code pinning will ever work anytime in the future, at least from what we know about IT.
Well, thanks. So some similar questions come up if you look at the Google end-to-end encryption extension that they've offered. How do you, Google says this code will offer you in-browser end-to-end user-to-user encryption. If it's a Google-supplied extension and Google can send updates to it, then Google could also either force or be forced to send an update that would decrypt instead of encrypt and send your data onward. So if you wanted to avoid that possibility, you could take the code to that extension, recompile it yourself, put on your own signature, and install it as a browser extension, and avoid the possibility of centralized update. Does that solve all the problems? No, but it's in part a question of threat modeling and how do we help to figure out which pieces we can solve by what means.
Thank you for your talk. But I have not a question, maybe a remark. I think trust is a social phenomenon. Trust will be established between parties, persons, organizations. And I think it's not clear how technology is a tool to achieve such a goal like trust. It can be necessary to do that, but most users doesn't make the expectations of trust explicit in the world. We have never seen an advertisement, this website is more secure than the other ones, because users expect that websites are secure and expect also that browsers and the operating systems work. I think we should not require from users to ask for explicit solutions for the trust problem.
Yeah, so as to the social phenomenon, we see it like something of branding is a way of trying to establish a reputation and then to maintain that reputation for trustworthiness. So if we sort of associate security incidents with the brand, I'm sure people are more reluctant to use their credit cards in a Target supermarket after its point-of-sale terminals were subject to an enormous breach than they were beforehand. And so that provides some incentive to the institutions to try to up their security in order to earn trust. And I hope that we can use some of those sort of social and institutional pressures to encourage better security practices and to build on that. And then I think there's a slightly different concept that we're talking about in security of, why do I believe that this system will operate properly, keep my information confidential, and do I have reason behind that belief? Well, I hope that we've got an active web security interest group and various working groups over at W3C looking at these issues. The web application security group is active in discussing cores and CSP and various other modules for securing web applications. And we are looking actively at what else does the web need. So please feel free to get in touch, and look forward to talking to you further.